Cheers.
Ready, set, go.
Wait.
1, 2, 3, go. Bing. Bing.
There you go.
Nice.
And, well, you can't just cheers and not drink.
Oh, yeah.
You got to.
I already started. Yeah. We needed this happy
Refreshing.
hour.
Exactly.
These shows are typically so pointedly topical and so concise that we have to take a break from that and just have a random show.
Well,
yeah.
Every once in a while, we need to pop
like
up
every
in a
couple
cold
years.
one. Exactly.
You had the delightful opportunity to leave your desk job for a week. Is it a week?
A week.
Do your summer road trip.
Actually, it ended up being 10 days.
Nice.
That was lovely, actually.
Yeah.
So
talk about it.
Our annual trip it's funny, is like, so the past 14 years living in Maryland, our annual trip has always been, hey, let's go back to Detroit, visit family, and then go up north and go camping and everything else. And my wife and I, now that we're living in Michigan, in the Detroit area, we don't have to go on our annual vacation to Detroit-ish. Sure. But and so actually we still did our going up north and going camping, which for once, and people commented on this, and it was actually refreshing that I was, I don't know, engaged, I guess you can call it, or whatever, but I did not bring work. I did not check work. I did not care about work. I did not want to think about work.
You leveled up, my friend.
Because how many times,
Achievement unlocked.
I was going to say, and you even know this, I mean, how many times have I gone on a vacation of some form, and it's always been work related, doing work, not being able to unplug from work because I gave myself some excuse on why I was doing work instead of enjoying myself.
No personal boundaries, enabled by technology.
Boundaries.
I mean, with the advent of the powerful laptop, you had no excuse not to work, no matter where you were.
And sadly, the campsite that we have, which is, family property, it actually has pretty good signal. But no, the beautiful thing about it is that nobody even bothered with it. It was a pure disconnection. Even the kids, pure disconnection.
Wow.
It was all about, great thing about this. So we go to Rogers City. There's this place called the Nautical Fest, or the place is called Rogers City. The event is called the Nautical Fest. Mm-hmm. And it's just this nice little small town event that has a small carnival, has a lot of events going on, art show, craft show, all sorts of, cool things. And of course, a car show. Come on, car show. That is that is definitely something that I was there for. We didn't stay as long as we normally would have because halfway through we needed to basically turn back around and head towards Chicago because my daughter had tickets to Lollapalooza. And,
I haven't heard that word in a long time.
Lollapalooza. I know, right? So her and her friend, big Red Hot Chili Pepper fans. And they were just like, look, if there's one thing that I want to do in my life, it's I want to go and see a Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, okay, your long 15-year life, the only thing that you can imagine ever doing is going to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was amazing about it, so the way that, so the tickets weren't really that expensive. We only got for the one day because she had no real interest in some of the other bands and stuff. She really just wanted to go see the Chili Peppers. But because she was there, she was able to see, at least like, I think 4 or 5 bands while she was at the Sunday event. And so I was thinking, okay, so think about the music festival atmosphere, going to see Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, she actually did something pretty amazing and either fought her way to the front or however it was. No. Yeah. She got all the way to the front.
Did you guys practice ahead of time? Here's how you do it.
Actually, funny enough is that so her first concert wasn't really that long ago. And she and I went to go see the Lemonheads. And so took her there and she basically elbowed her way to the front. And I just kind of like followed behind her because, hey, I got to be with my daughter. I mean,
natural born leader.
Exactly.
She, not you.
Totally. And so she elbowed her way to the front on this one. And some of the photographs that she took I was just like, wow, you guys really were incredibly close.
That's cool.
And so I was thinking to myself, okay, I think I paid $120 for her ticket for the day. And if you think about, like, if she were to go and see the Chili Peppers at a normal Chili Peppers concert and got basically front center stage, she said there was 3 people in front of her. That's it.
She couldn't elbow those people away, right?
She, she, honestly, story that she apparently they were like this couple and they were like all over each other and stuff. And she apparently yelled out, yeah, we get it. You love each other. Now move. Like, that's my daughter.
Wow. Yeah.
But, exactly. So that's what she did. And so I took the opportunity to basically have a nice semi-architectural, just, like relaxing time in Chicago while she was doing that. My wife and I were basically walking around the city and hanging out and looking at some of the cool new stuff and just cool old stuff and just hanging out. Yeah.
I was figuring that this story had to get architectural at some point
because
your vacation always turns into an architectural field trip, and going to a place like Chicago, there's a lot of opportunity to see some cool stuff.
How can you not go to Chicago, and if your trip doesn't turn architectural, then you're doing it wrong, right? Because, if you think about it, so I think I shared with you some photographs. I went to the roastery, the Starbucks Reserve roastery. Yeah. And it architecturally was pretty amazing. Now, I called it, Disneyland Starbucks because there was a long line. It was actually quite impressive how long the line was. Just to go in to a 4-story, so it was the world's largest Starbucks. The interior was amazing. The interior architecture was just it was really nice. Coffee,
it's
it's
straight up Starbucks, right?
It was.
Somebody can tell us I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just normal Starbucks coffee.
Well, they did have, so they have a specialties that is only at the Reserve.
Okay.
And
with reserve prices also. Yeah.
With reserve prices. And it really wasn't that. So actually, though, it wasn't really terribly more expensive than, 3 cups of coffee and a pastry was, $30. So it's still, I'm thinking to myself, $30 and how many of my own coffee that I can make at my house with that, with the same robust flavor. Everybody bet me. It was just like, I bet you won't go up there and ask them for a cup of Folgers.
Nope.
It's just like I should walk up there and say,
You've been conditioned by inflation, though, to say that's a normal price to spend it.
No,
3 coffees and a pastry.
Yeah, that's sad that yes, you're right, that we've been conditioned to that. Although I was there and everybody pretty much I was just like, we're here, we might as well get a cup of coffee. Why not? Everybody wanted to leave. They were like, we'll just go get something at the 7-Eleven. Like, yeah, you're right. I was the one who actually kind of convinced them to stay. And and get
Those stores are really cool, though. I mean,
they are.
Like you said, it's multiple stories. I've been to a couple Reserve stores. Some are better than others, but the one in Seattle that I've been to a couple times now is incredible. I mean, the attention to detail, the materiality, the lighting, the options of things that you can get there also are they're way more than so. So I guess the reason I'm saying this is if you are listening and you've never been to a Starbucks Reserve, they are quite a different animal than any other Starbucks out there. And
yes.
And even then, some are better than others. So this is kind of like the Apple Store version of a coffee shop.
Absolutely. And it's pretty amazing. So like each level had its own kind of speciality. There was even one that like had barrel aged bourbon coffee at the at the very top, and it was good. We were on the third level when we ordered coffee, and that was more kind of like some of the specialty coffees and things like that. But yeah, I mean,
architecturally, like
architecturally,
that roaster, the pneumatic tubes that they send the beans to different locations in the store. It's kind of a Rube Goldberg machine of coffee.
It sort of is.
It's really cool.
Everybody walked in, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh." And then we watched a couple of the pneumatic tubes shooting coffee beans through, and they're like, "This has got to be just for show." And I'm like, "No, it's actually real." And so we did watch that, which was kind of cool. The thing that I was like kind of like shocked at is like the furniture budget is, like the FF&E budget on that thing must be just like insanely amazing, because it was not cheap furniture. It was beautifully designed mid-century type, kind of all wood. It was and it was really nice. I mean, it was really, really nice.
This reminds me of a Starbucks that I popped into in Helsinki, of all places. I mean, I was on a wonderful vacation with my wife. I'm sure we talked about it on the show. And I'm like, wow, fancy furniture. Like, this looks like super Scandinavian, really Alvar Aalto-ish. Oh, this is actually a Starbucks in I think it's called the Academic Bookstore in downtown Helsinki. That is Alvar Aalto, like one of his most famous commercial projects.
Oh, wow.
It was like, I didn't even realize where I was, but it was like, wow, the furniture budget's amazing. Oh, I recognize those doorknobs, like the push-pull, the door pushes. And it was like, those are Aalto. Oh my God, I'm in this incredible place. I didn't even realize it.
You were like, yeah, who cares about the coffee? Although I will say that, so it was interestingly full circle, because the very first Starbucks coffee that I ever had was in Chicago when we were on an architectural tour in school. And I probably, it was definitely not that one, but I probably went into the original Starbucks that I had gone into and burnt my tongue because the coffee was too hot. And I was just like, and for a while, it actually sort of put me off of Starbucks. I'm like, yeah, this is, And so I didn't drink any of that kind. But, now I'm just, this guy comes walking by and he's just like, what's everybody waiting in line for? And he's holding like 2 cups of Starbucks coffee in his hand. And he's just like, oh, this is a Starbucks. He's like, there's a Starbucks right over there across the road. And it's just like, oh, but this is he goes, is it the same coffee? And I'm thinking, and this is what I'm texting you as just like, I'm just standing in line in the Starbucks Reserve in line. And I hope that it's not the same coffee as I could get literally right across the street, because the dude who just said, hey, there's a Starbucks right across the street.
Yeah, you gotta tell yourself the story that it's not the same. I mean, and the environment really helps you tell that story. Yeah,
it wasn't. I ended up getting a dark chocolate espresso, because I mean, if espresso wasn't enough, go ahead and add some dark chocolate in there for the extra kick of caffeine.
I just wanted to point out that you say espresso, Cormac. You say espresso because it has an extra shot of caffeine. Maybe that's why you say it like that. Espresso. Everyone needs to watch the YouTube version right now.
So anyway, snob.
Not a coffee snob, but a word snob, yes.
Yes. But so of course, also went to the Apple Store. And
that's a good one. It's exquisite.
You and I went there during the AIA convention, and we went there. Obviously, it was closed because it was dark, middle of the night. And so we went there, and it was, I mean, I was impressed with it. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing negative going to be coming out of my mouth, but we didn't get a chance to like fully immerse ourselves in like what was going on there. Mm-hmm. And I love to go into places like that and look at not just the place and, experience the place, but also I want to start looking at details. I want to start seeing how things are finished off. Everything was thought through. All of the devices, all of the fire extinguisher cabinets. I mean, all of these things were all thought through. It was very clean. It was a beautifully detailed. And then you just sit there and you're just like, okay, how there's these two massive columns in the middle, kind of like maybe 1/3 in from the glass on either side. And so anybody, please look it up because it's a pretty amazing building. But that's the only visible structure. Everything else is like this massive cantilever with basically glass holding it up. Glass holding up
and
this.
And just to paint the picture, it's like a razor thin roof edge at the very tip. So the cantilever you're talking about is this round rectangle roof that just seems to float above, and almost entirely, is it entirely glass enclosure, or there's some solid walls? I can't remember.
Nope, fully glass all the way around.
Fully glass all the way around. And so the structure inside of that, like you're saying, I think it probably houses like the utility core, the elevator, things like that as well.
Yes.
But you can basically walk on the stairs inside or outside the building. They match, and the glass is what keeps the environment out or in, as it
exactly. And it's right. The thing that I love about it is that it's so transparent that if it weren't for just basically the lid of a laptop type roof that they have, because isn't it that the kind of the dimension of it?
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is so unobtrusive. You can, if you're on the plaza side looking through the building, you can see the river. If you were on the river side looking through the building, you can, you're visually connected. Now you're lower, but you're visually connected to the plaza and the building behind it, which is of course, my favorite building. Just, I don't know what struck me about it the first time that I saw it, but for some reason, it's always been just my favorite building in Chicago, and that's the Chicago Tribune building. And it's right behind it. And so there's this layering effect. And even when you're standing across the street and you're looking across the river at that building and also the Tribune building, there's no obscured view. It's just, it's well done. I mean, the whole thing about it is just well done. The first time I saw it, I was just like, oh, this is kind of weird. And I was also like worried about, it's like, oh, this is like, it's right on the Chicago River. It's going to get cold. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. I don't know how it is in the wintertime. Yeah, I've only seen the building twice, and it's both been kind of like in the summertime. But it is it's a well situated building, beautifully sited, detail wise. I mean, impeccable. I mean, I don't know
who money there.
Who
it's
actually
a Foster
did
and Partners.
Is that a Foster? Okay,
I believe so.
It's impressive. I really appreciated, the level of detail of just the fire extinguisher cabinet. They've got this. They've got the
stairs
at the base of the stairs. There's the stone that wraps around the stairs, and just one of the stone panels, you can see that it's just slightly gapped, and it's got just a small picture, probably maybe, I don't know, 4 inches at best high. And it's just a little red embossment of a fire extinguisher. That's it. That's the only way that that is that. Well integrated exit signs, well integrated like diffusers and strobes and all of these other things. When you see buildings like that, and you know how much coordination goes into making sure that all of those devices are hitting in the right spot, all those lights are hitting in the right spot, and everything is just, and then all of the stuff that's above, especially with like a paper thin ceiling or, roof, you're like, yeah, this is pretty good. These people know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. And just the tech that's in those tables alone is incredible. Yeah. And you don't know it. Like, it's just completely hidden, but there's security, there's power, there's all these different sensing capabilities. A lot of them have stuff underneath, like if somebody does want a printed receipt, or it's incredible what's going on inside these birchwood or maple tables that they've got.
And you don't see any of it. It is, everything is so simply out of sight, out of mind. Now, yes, it is definitely designed with the Apple UX kind of user experience kind of philosophy in mind, because it's not just the ease and use of our devices. Well, it's the ease and use of their building too. That simple aesthetic, that simple use of just like their OS systems and stuff kind of carry on through the way that you actually use the building, which you got to be impressed with.
I think some of my favorite parts of that store in particular, I think it's hilarious that we're going on and on in a city of Chicago about the Apple Store. But the Apple Stores are capital A architecture. And I think they're worth talking about. The screen that is between kind of the main part of the store and the river is incredible. And the way they have those little maple boxes that are just kind of randomly strewn about for people to sit on, because they conduct classes in there. It's like what they used to call the theater. I don't know if they still call it that. And then they've got these huge planted trees with these beautifully designed planters with seating around them that are just kind of little islands in the store that are occupying space. But because it's a 2-story volume, there's plenty of space for those trees to grow inside.
And
it's just so well done. Beautiful.
Yeah. And I will say, so my daughter's phone was dying. In fact, actually, I walked in and I was like, I don't have a Genius Bar appointment, but I'd like to make one if I could, because her phone, for some reason, one of the newest phones that we have, won't hold a charge, overheats when it's being charged. And so I wanted to kind of take a look at it and all that other stuff. And so we were sort of waiting. And then I got this text that said it was basically going to be about like a 2-hour before they could see me. And then we gave up and went and got some good old Chicago deep dish pizza. As I'm standing there waiting for the text to like let me know when and if they could see me, I'm staring at that screen that you're talking about.
It's enormous.
It is enormous, and it is such perfect clarity. I was trying to convince my wife. I was like, I believe that is all I want our basement to be, is a screen just that big. I don't care.
That's what I want.
Nothing else needs to. We don't need anything else in the basement. Just that screen.
It's I think $1 million screen though, right?
My God, it's
all by itself.
It is insane. It is and you would assume that screens that big, normally we used to see, and in fact, even the early Apple stores would be multiple screens just mashed together. If like something would go out or something, you would see the lines between each of the panels. This one enormous, like it's got to be one of the biggest, just what I would call flat screen TVs that I have ever seen in my life. That is a single panel. I was just like, this is amazing. I'm like, please tell me that they watch like Bears games or something on this TV.
I don't think so.
They don't. They were actually showing some of like some of the new technology. Obviously, it was kind of like running some advertisements of some of the things that were there, but it was still, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Because they, as you said, they seamlessly integrate technology into this experience that is just, you it's almost like you don't even realize it's there, even with this big old screen. And you're looking at the screen, and to be quite honest with you, the screen has got the backdrop of the city, the river, and then the city.
The river,
and it's so like the activity behind it. If you're not singularly focused on the screen of like, ooh, what's on the screen, you would never really know that the screen was there because of all of the activity that's going on behind it. I was just, it actually was a really impressive retail store. I mean, who would have thought, we would be talking about retail stores, Apple Store, as you said, or Starbucks and stuff. But these are two examples of the store itself is all about the user experience. It's because a lot of times it's like commercials or a TJ Maxx or something where let's get all of our goods in there as much as possible. And no one really cares about the actual store itself. It's big queuing line to get you out of there, and then jam full of stuff. And it is just the opposite. I mean, the store is probably filled with all sorts of like stuff that you can buy, but they've only got it neat, as everybody probably knows if they've been in an Apple store. Everything is, we don't need 5,000 things like out on there. We'll put our 5 things that we sell, and everything else will be out of sight, out of mind. And we'll just do it neatly arranged where people can enjoy themselves, sit down and just be comfortable in the space with the technology kind of immersed around them. And it's not really necessarily about like buying. It's about being. And really Starbucks was the same thing. Starbucks was a little bit more insane because it was kind of there's a circular escalator that, goes up. And so you get on these escalators at the ground floor and you kind of like go all the way to the top. And then if you want, you can come down. So it's kind of a Guggenheim-esque type experience but you've got like this, and it's all focused around the pneumatic tube area. Then they have it kind of like, then it layers out to, here's where you would order. So there's your, barista bar. And then everything else is all about sitting, relaxing, enjoying, listening to the coffee shop music, reading some stories about, it really is focused all about the user experience in both of these, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting way to think about architecture because I don't think we get to think about our projects like that all the time. And these they do it to the nines, right? It's like, they'll do everything they can to make it a rich experience for people. And they have a lot of money to do it, right? So they don't skimp on materials. They don't skimp on, like, even though I think you think about like the schools that we've worked on in the past where it's driven by maintenance, right? And you got to build the walls out of CMU or you got to do sheet metal or like whatever. And it usually ends up just being like the most robust material you can find. Well, here it is that, but it is also extremely elegant. And so they're the I don't know what the right word is, but it's like this kind of experience tax that they've paid to ensure that it's as nice as it can be on our behalf. Because I think that's one of the most interesting things about both of these stores is like, you don't have to go in and buy anything, right? You can just go hang out there as much as you want. And they know that like over time, as you do that more and more, you're going to be more and more aware of their brand and exposed to it. And then you will, but it is interesting.
Yeah. And they want people like that. They want kind of like loiterers, if you want to call them that. They want people to occupy the space because it isn't necessarily just about, get your food, get out, kind of thing. It's get your food, experience the place. We want bodies in this place to feel, to show that we're like, the place to be. Right.
Yeah.
And so basically their business model is it's like, okay, you may not shop here today, but we know you're going to shop here because you come here enough, you experience this place enough. Now, I will say that not all Apple stores have that same kind of like experience level as that. I mean, some of them do.
It's a flagship store. Yeah. Yeah. Just like the Starbucks Reserve. I mean,
Right.
They're
It
not
is
all going to
definitely
be like that. Yeah.
Right. Because I think the other one that I can think of is the one in downtown New York City, right at the edge of Central Park, the Cube.
Oh yeah, the Cube.
In that thing, I mean, you see basically all you see is the entrance when you're walking up to it, which is the Cube.
Is just the vestibule.
Exactly. And then you see it like twist down and you go underneath it. And then that's where the experience is. And that's where you feel very much like that you're not forced to buy. You're just forced to be. Well, not even forced to be. You're just there to be.
I think what's so cool about this whole idea is that, I mean, bigger picture, their focus is on building a relationship with people, not on creating a transaction.
Right.
And so their whole goal is to build a relationship by creating a great experience. And I think, just if you think architecturally and you think about brands and you think about how brands approach people versus processing a transaction or processing, an engagement with people to get them out as quickly as possible versus let them loiter and experience and ask questions and partake in a class or ask a question about how does that thingamajiggy work with the coffee move, being the beans being moved around. All of that just creates a way more immersive, meaningful experience for people. And I think it's so interesting that can happen inside of retail architecture, right? And the more exclusive brands, like the ones we're talking about here, obviously have the luxury of having the money to do that, but it is also very much to their advantage, right? And to work with architects to make that happen, I think is absolutely incredible. No matter what you actually think about those brands, if you think big picture, like that's a pretty incredible thing that goes on there with that collaboration between brand and architect to create those experiences.
Well, think about the architecture that I'm likening it to, the Guggenheim. The places that are, I'm not talking about like, this Starbucks is like your Waffle House or something like that. I'm comparing it to capital A architecture because it is capital A architecture, like you said. And it really is about, actually, I can't restate it better than what you just said, is that it's about building those relationships and building the experience. And, and that experience is all about that, building the relationship. Will I go back to another Starbucks? Sure. Was I complaining about some of the quality of the Starbucks coffee that you get? Sure. But you know what? I still like to go back there, and I still like to get a Starbucks every once in a great while. And places like that are definitely things that's just like, I'm going to go and hang out here because
it's a highlight. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Now, granted, I was more curious about how you become a Starbucks bouncer because they had somebody standing at the front door, basically like letting you in waves. It's like, how many people do you have in your party? We've got 4. Oh, okay. You can go ahead and go. It's just like, really? Like, people are knocking down the doors to get in here. And then I look around the corner and I see this really, really long and growing line. The very first night that we got there, our hotel wasn't too far from the reserve. So I decided, hey, let's just drive past it and take a look at it. We got into town probably about, say, 2:33 in the afternoon. And we were looking at it and we're like, oh, wow, that's a very, very busy, big line outside of the Starbucks.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of insane.
So what else did you see in Chicago that you loved?
I honestly started to just kind of go down memory lane. Again, the first time that I had visited Chicago was on our architectural trip. The professor that took us had worked with Mies. And if you look in the last 3 books that were actually written, about and by Mies, you'll see his name in there as, kind of like, I guess, an associate of Mies. And then he moved on to, what is it? SOM or HOK? Which one took over, was kind of like the disciples of Mies? SOM, right?
It's got to be SOM. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so he was a project manager on the Hancock building. So we went to the Hancock building and just, we walked around and looked at, I don't know why, but every time we like get somewhere, people are like, oh, I need to go to the store. And I'm like, why do you need to go to the store? We brought everything we needed. So, oh, I forgot something I need to, can we find a Target? I'm like, haha, yes, we can find a Target. Was it the Carson Prescott building? And if I'm misstating how the name is, but it's Louis Sullivan building. It's got kind of like the round and it's got the cast iron and everything else.
Well, super cool. Yeah.
Well, it is now a Target. And I'm like, okay, well, if we're going to, and it's right down State Street, which was where our hotel was. And so we're like, well, if we're going to go to a Target, we're going to go to an architectural Target. And then walking around there, I was just like, oh, look, Monadnock building. This was at one point in time the tallest building in the world, or one of like the tallest masonry buildings of its time. And just walking around and seeing the Sears Tower, which of course we'll never call it the Willis Tower. No, I don't care how long it's not been this.
You gotta beep that out.
how long it's not been the Sears Tower? Sure. In fact, the last few times that we've been with the kids and stuff, it's always been the Willis Tower, but I can't call it the Willis Tower.
I still haven't been there, but I've heard it's really a cool experience as well, where you can get out in these transparent boxes and look straight down because you're standing on glass. Yeah.
And I could never convince any of my family to go with me. And it's always funny. It's like,
just don't make it optional.
Well, the kids are like, I'm not a big fan of heights. I don't want to go. Okay, fine. And then my wife's like, do you see how much it costs to go up there?
Practical. She gets practical.
So she goes practical. They go fearful. And I'm like,
so you
all
guys
right,
can
whatever.
go spend $30 on coffee at Starbucks, but you can't go stand over air on the Willis Tower. I said the dirty word.
You did. You said it. What's funny is like there are those buildings or those places that they were called one thing at one point in time and then they've changed their names. And so now there's something else. And like Comiskey Park, it's not Comiskey Park. It's whatever is the new person, sponsor of the thing. But I don't know what it is. It's Comiskey Park to me. All of these different places. I'm not going to call the Carson Prescott building a Target. I know it right. Houses a Target, but it's not a Target. Not to me, it's a Target. So it's but all in all, it was a good trip. It's a good way to, I mean, it was funny. It was like, work, and then get away from work completely by going to the woods and getting away from just architecture in general. And then going to a very architectural city and just being a casual observer of architecture and enjoying and experiencing architecture and kind of like refreshing my memories on why I actually do what I do to then come back to work and jump back into it, sift through and wade through all of the emails of like, say, hey, now that you're back, can we have meetings? And go from having absolutely nothing to having a full docket full of, hey, can I ask you these questions? Or what would you use as a vapor barrier in this particular condition? It's just like, okay, just roll up the sleeves and get back to it. Exactly.
So do you feel like that was the right order to do it in? Do you feel like the right order was to go completely decompress, be in the woods, be away, and then like work your way back into the urban, back into the job? Or would you like to do it the other way around?
Honestly, I think this was the right way.
Cold turkey. I would call this the cold turkey way. You just cut it off.
I mean, it was enough of it was short enough trip to the woods. I mean, it was only 4 days, but it was 4 well worth it days. Got the tents set up, got everything ready. I was like the fire tender. It's just like, fire's going out. Where's Cormac? Cormac, fire's going out.
Serve me. They brought their servant daddy.
No. So over the years, whether my brother-in-laws or anybody else wants to believe this, everybody's come to rely on the way that I make fires. And everybody's got their own way of making a fire, but mine usually end up being like these big, massive roaring fires. I kind of do the old-fashioned teepee method. And mine just tend to be, these large kind of like roaring fires and stuff. And so everybody appreciates the big kind of like almost like bonfire type feel of mine. And so I'm just the fire master.
We don't get to do that out here. There's no fire burning in the summertime in California or Oregon. Like, you're just not allowed to do it.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously with the Canadian wildfires not being too far from us, we of course are very, very cautious, very, very, careful about them. The good thing is that property that we have has got a really good like open area where we have, this nice big fire pit lined with we just like cleared a bunch of stones off of the property and just made this big, massive, beautiful little fire pit.
Yeah. So going from tent camping to hotels is the wife approved way of doing it. I also assume.
Oh yeah.
But you think that's the right way to do it, rather, because I think that would be harder to sell to the family to go from like hotels to camping back home. That just sounds like a harder road to toe.
Yeah. Well, everybody was totally geared up for camping. And so it was, I think the way we did it with cold turkey method of completely detaching from it was something that just felt like it was necessary for us to do. I mean, you go out on these, breaks, and you've been going to like Crater Lake and all of these other places, and it's enough of a detachment from the kind of like the day to day, right? Where mine was just a little more extended out, but it's just basically a good long weekend kind of trip for us. 4 good days. Absolutely. Yes, there was reception, but nobody cared because no one's face, no kid, no adult, no one's face was buried in a device. Everybody's was like, going for hikes, going canoeing, going to the beach. We took a drive up to the Upper Peninsula and went to waterfalls. I will say that I guess it wasn't truly cold turkey, because I did make an effort to, as we were driving up and as we were there, because we stay on the Lake Huron side of things, that I did want to go and see. We saw 4 of the Lake Huron lighthouses.
Oh, so that's cool.
It wasn't purely void of architecture, but it was the fun kind of like, hey, look, it's old.
It's exploring. Yeah.
Exactly. It's exploring.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, happy summer to you. I don't think I'm going to really get like a true summer vacation this year, but maybe next episode I can talk about a couple little trips I've done recently, because I'm like finally getting out and exploring a few areas because we've had some family visiting, and just leave a little teaser there, but doing a couple things out here that's been nice.
Yeah, exactly. All right then. Well,
all right.
Glad to be back at the grind.
Welcome back.
Exactly.
Get to work.